Okay, so I am going to go ahead and get started. I will go through this presentation, like I said, pretty quickly so that we can spend most of our time discussing and plotting and planning. This is the agenda. So I think we'll start by introducing ourselves. It probably won't take 20 minutes. I'm going to quickly give the overview of Democrats Abroad, although I think all of you are aware. Talk about what the opportunities and the needs are for involvement right now. And then we'll have questions and discussion. So I think I'll stop the share right now so that we can have a gallery view so we can see everyone as they speak. So just share your name, where you live, where you vote, and how you heard about DA or how you've been involved, and whether or not you have volunteered before. So hang on, I'm going to stop the share for a second. Can everyone see the gallery now? Yep. Okay, I think I'm going to have Andres start.
Yeah, so my name is Andres Espinheira. I live in Porto and vote in Colorado. I heard about DA from Christy and Amy. Got involved in 2020, helping people vote here around Porto, try to get the orange clown out of the White House, which, yay, that happened. And then I got recruited to, join the exec committee for Democrats Abroad. And it's been a lot of work, but it's also been a lot of fun meeting a lot of people. Similar sort of views on things, and that's refreshing.
Okay. Hi, Martha. Thanks for joining us. We are just introducing ourselves. So I am going to have Carol introduce herself. You're muted.
Oh,
there you go.
It's just, I have to do it with my left hand.
Your left hand.
Oh, how does it work? Hi, I'm Carol. I'm living in Tomar, which is in central Portugal. And I vote in Massachusetts. And also because of Amy and interest in politics, got involved with DA Portugal and DA Europe in 2020, I think around February or March. So same story as a lot of the people on this call. And I'm very interested in promoting and making sure that it continues to grow and thrive and that we get lots and lots of people voting in the upcoming elections.
Thank you. Hey, Phyllis, thanks for joining. We're just doing introductions. How about Alicia?
I'm Alicia Phillip. I live in Vasau and I vote in Georgia. Yes. Important state, will continue to be in the midterm elections. I obviously have been involved in things back in the States, but I've only been here a year, a little bit more than a year. So I've just started to get involved in Democrats Abroad Portugal, thanks to Christy, and I was on Amy's call the other day.
All right. Okay, I'm just going like left to right on my screen. So Amy is next.
Sure. Hi, I'm Amy Krausar. I vote in, I live in Lisbon in the suburbs in Ajuda, which is just north of Belém, if you guys know where that is. Before that, I lived in Passo de Arcos, so I know a little bit about the Linha. I vote in Illinois, so I wish I voted in Georgia. I wish I voted where I grew up in Iowa, but Illinois it is. And I've been involved in Democrats Abroad for a while now, multiple years. I don't remember exactly how many years. In globally and with sort of historical groups with Democrats Abroad Portugal. And I'm leading the GOTV group for Democrats Abroad Portugal.
Thanks. Okay, Frank.
Okay, I'm Frank Missel. I live in Oeiras, right outside Lisbon, and I vote in California, so not much help. But we moved here about a year and a half ago, and I got somewhat involved last year before the election, but I hope now that we're better installed, I'll have more time to do something more real. Obviously, the outlook is so grim for 2022. I think that Democrats are going to need all the help they can get. So, okay, I hope we're going to help.
That's what we're here to
Okay,
do.
that's what we need to do.
Yeah. Thanks. How about Phyllis? You're muted.
Wasn't that the catchphrase for 2020 or something? You're on mute, Grandma. So I'm Phyllis. I live in Matosinhos municipality. I arrived here almost 2 years ago, and I vote in Seattle, Washington.
And have you had, how did you get involved with Democrats Abroad? Or, I mean, you did
It's all
organize
your-
an amazing picnic that we didn't get to have.
Yeah, I know. Let's not go there with the picnic thing. I met you and Andres at your Get Out the Vote at Bar of Soap in March of 2020. It must have been like right before everything shut down, or late February, something like that. And I must have heard about it from some other Americans that I know here, Mary, Ed, some other folks.
Thanks. Okay, Martha.
Hello.
Hi.
I vote in California, and I wish I hadn't changed from where I grew up in Pennsylvania, but hey ho. I was involved with Dems Abroad in London. So I did phone banking for the 2 Obama campaigns. And have you registered? Have you gotten your ballot? Have you sent in your ballot? You know, that kind of thing. So, but I've now left London, and I now live in Madeira.
Oh, yay.
Fantastic.
Okay, yeah, it is. And anyway, so with the internet, it doesn't matter where you live. So I'm glad that there's a Dems Abroad Portugal.
Great, thanks. Terry, are you able to unmute and introduce yourself?
No.
Unmute.
Yeah,
I think I'm here.
you are.
Sorry, my internet connection in my house is ridiculous in the Algarve. So I'm yes, I'm on my phone now, and I can see some of you, but you probably can't see me, can you?
No, but we can hear you.
Hello. It's ridiculous. You can hear me? Okay, good. Okay, so I'm Terry Recht. I usually live in Lisbon, and I live in Campo Rico, actually. I vote in California, and I met Christy and Amy I guess it was really 2019. I met Amy, who dragged me into Democrats Abroad, because that's what she does, and she's good at it. So, and then I met Christy last year, and I really enjoy getting involved with DA. So I look forward to a big 2022. We did have a lovely get together in October in Lisbon at the Miradora. We had about 20 people that came. It was very casual. It was all about just getting to know, just trying to connect as a community. So I look forward to getting, having more get-togethers and more involvement in 2022.
Thank you, Terry.
Okay.
I'm loving the cat, Phyllis. And
Love Phyllis's kitty.
cats are always welcome, and dogs also at our meetings, online or in person, as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen, and I will introduce myself. I'm Christy Espinera. I live in Porto. I vote in Colorado. I am the chair of Democrats Abroad Portugal, elected last spring. And I too was recruited by Amy, who is probably responsible for many of us who are currently involved with DA. But I mean, I feel like my story kind of speaks to how volunteering can be really, with DA, can be really a powerful and positive thing in your life. I was here only about 2 weeks or a week and a half when I don't know how Amy found me. Somehow on Facebook, I don't remember it at all. But at some point she said, hey, we want to do this film screening, and do you think you could find a place in Porto to do it? And I was like, okay. So I did that and then helped, work throughout the year with Get Out the Vote and the global presidential primaries. And just part of this team that was really small and fluid at that time, informal. But we had a really good experience, and we got really good results in terms of getting out the vote for people in Portugal. And then when we decided to bring our committee back into compliance last year, anyway, I ended up running and being elected chair. So I'm going to move on here. And like I said, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly because I think most of you are familiar. I always like to start with our mission statement, just as a reminder of who we are and what we do and why we do it. We are the official Democratic Party arm for the millions of Americans who live outside the United States. We are just trying to give everyone a democratic voice in our government and elect democratic candidates by mobilizing the overseas vote. So that is really the core purpose of our group. Goals of Democrats Abroad: to inform Americans abroad that they can vote and help them do it. Votefromabroad.org, if that's the only thing you remember, tell all your friends, votefromabroad.org, and that's how people can register. Educate Americans abroad about issues, advocate on behalf of Americans overseas, and our one really great example of that right now is our taxation task force. They're advocating and doing some really, really great work, have got a bill in front of Congress to simplify filing requirements for certain Americans abroad, and to create a community for Americans abroad. So officially, there are roughly, we hear different numbers, 6,000 Americans in Portugal. That's kind of a CEF number. Unofficially, I was speaking with Kristen Kane from the US Embassy. They believe that there are 26,000. I know, Amy, I see your face. They believe that there are as many as 26,000 US citizens living in Portugal. And that would include dual citizens, that would include Portuguese Americans, that would even include people like my husband, who is also a Spanish citizen. So he did not come through the US D7 visa, he came as a European citizen. But that's what the unofficial estimate via the embassy is. So that's really a lot more than we even thought. Right now we have, as of today, 923 members of DA Portugal. And these numbers below, I borrowed from Amy's presentation the other day. In 2019 and 2020, as we had a core group of about 5 volunteers and a few others that kind of flowed in and out. We did not have an official country committee. Even so, we helped over 1,000 Americans in Portugal register to vote. Currently, there are already 1,210 Americans in Portugal registered to vote, according to statistics from votefromabroad.org. So a little bit about our leadership team. So we do have an executive committee. That's myself, Andres as vice chair, our secretary, Lucy Dick, treasurer, Linda Wagan, Terry Recht, who's on this call, is our counsel, and Get Out the Vote chair is Amy, who's also on this call. There are some leadership positions that we do have according to our bylaws that are empty. These are filled by appointment by the chair, and just so you know, these are open. Membership/outreach chair, communications chair, and program chair. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about those areas and what those entail. So we have opportunities to get involved at all levels, and depending on your time and your interests. People can do something as small as, helping out at one event, or as big as, like I said, being a member of the XCOM and chairing one of these areas. We're looking for help with communications, with fundraising, events and programming, membership and outreach, caucus liaisons, and get out the vote. I'm going to talk just briefly about each one of those areas. So this is the communications team. What does this team do? This group of people help spread the awareness of Democrats Abroad Portugal, help increase our membership and engagement, and facilitate communications with members. So these would be people who would create and share content on social media. They might get information from Democrats Abroad Global and make sure that our Facebook and Instagram and Twitter accounts are amplifying that content. They would help write newsletters. They might design graphics for our events and initiatives, and they, depending on people's interests or what kind of experience they have, might also help with media outreach. So letting the Portuguese press know, or the English language press in Portugal, about us and what we do. Fundraising team. This is a big one. As an official country committee, we do need to raise funds to support our phone banking initiatives for the midterm elections. So we also help out by supporting the DA Global infrastructure. We would need funds to help underwrite our events, like having enough, kind of money in the bank to maybe put down event deposits if we're going to hold an event, and advertising such as Facebook ads and things like that. So a fundraising team, we would basically help secure funds for us and come up with ideas for fundraisers, recruit people to become monthly donors, and reach out to people for larger donations. So events and program team, and I've broken this into two slides. One is sort of countrywide and the other one will be more local. So this is pretty self-explanatory. Help us create and host events. These can be in person or virtual, to keep our members informed and engaged. And so in the last couple of months, we've kind of focused on, we've had several in-person events. We had events in Porto, in Lisbon, in Tomar. We had a small event in, I'm blanking on the city, Olhão last weekend. And we've also had a few virtual events. We sponsored a talk by Carmelin Polci, who is the chair of the DA Global Taxation Task Force. That was fantastic. But people on this team would help us figure out, who do we want to have as speakers? What are people interested in hearing about? Are there candidates or politicians that we would like to invite to speak about their race or what's going on in their states? Are there, people who can speak on things that we're interested in terms of policy, cultural experts, things like that. So people on this team would help figure out who the speakers might be. They might help with events, help us figure out good places to hold events. Can be just as simple as showing up and being a greeter. We had in Lisbon at Terry's get together, we had a couple people who were fantastic people just to greet and make people get their name tags and sign the sign-in sheet. And it was really a big help just to have someone to do something as simple as that. So this is local. There's also the opportunity to create, some countries have official chapters. And if we have enough interest in certain areas, we can also do that. But you might just have a group of local people, maybe 5, 6, 7 to 10 people in your area who would like to be Democrats Abroad Coimbra, or Democrats Abroad Madeira, or wherever you are. to connect there and work on local events that would be interesting to you. Outreach and membership. So basically this kind of area is to help us figure out, where are the Americans in Portugal? How do we reach them? How do we recruit them? How do we get them to sign up? So these are some examples of how other country committees do this. They have done this through social media, through getting media coverage, put up posters. A lot of country committees do kind of table events where if there's a local market or fair, they might sit and talk to people. Networking, connecting with local organizations. I'm thinking also that it would be really great to have someone or a group of people to spearhead kind of a virtual membership outreach. So maybe there's a way that we can get people to share our Facebook post about becoming members, for example, or send an email to 5 people that you know, right? And just say, join Democrats Abroad. So that's another way that we could do outreach and meet and increase our membership. Caucus liaisons. So Democrats Abroad has a number of global caucuses that focus on different constituencies and areas of interest. There may be some people in Democrats Abroad Portugal who are already active in some of these caucuses and would be able to sort of be a liaison between that global caucus and Democrats Abroad Portugal by calling our attention to events that they may be having, or saying, you know, I heard a really great speaker at the LGBTQ event. Maybe we can invite them. So that there's also possible to form these caucuses within the country, and that's kind of, if there was a critical mass of people who wanted to say, we want to have a Black caucus for Democrats Abroad Portugal, that's also a possibility. But I'm just going to read this list of the caucuses that we have at the global level. So we have AAPI, which is Asian American and Pacific Islander, the Global Black Caucus, the Global LGBTQ+, Progressive Caucus, the Women's Caucus, and I think a couple of you on this call are kind of tuned in to the Women's Caucus. There's a brand new Youth Caucus. The Disability Caucus is also brand new, and they focus on issues of disability for Americans abroad. Hispanic Caucus, Veterans Caucus, also new is the Environmental Caucus. And there is a Senior Caucus that is in formation. So if you're interested in any more information on these, you can find their descriptions and what they're all about, and the links to those groups at democratsabroad.org/caucuses. And last but not least, actually the opposite of least, we have the Get Out the Vote team. And Amy is on this call. So Amy, I just pulled this information from another presentation, but I thought maybe you could just speak a little bit about this group and what you do and focus on.
Yeah, thanks, Christy. Just 2 seconds on that, because we just happened to kind of get a kickstart on this. And Alicia was there at our last meeting, and Frank, I know, has been interested in being involved. I forget, and I apologize for this, if Phyllis and Martha, if you had also said yes, because it was really great. We reached out and said, hey, who wants to be involved in GOTV? And was really excited because we had 23 people who raised their hand and said, yes, I want to be involved. And I've heard from a lot of them. We had a first meeting. We're going to have another meeting for GOTV, our second meeting on now I'm just in the middle of December. I want to say the 13th, but I can't remember because it's not written on my paper calendar. It's on my other calendar. But anyway, the key thing on that is really to make our focus, what Christy said is, doing that key thing of educating people, helping Americans register to vote and helping them to vote. And then getting engaged in all of the other groups that Christy has mentioned, if somebody wants a GOTV component with that. I know Frank was involved in the past in terms of phone banking. That's a big thing for us. We need to raise money for that so we can do it, because we can't do phone banking unless we actually raise our own money for it. Just had a whole bunch of ideas as I was listening to you, Christy.
Ooh, that's
And yeah, and a whole bunch of other things. And actually, scarily enough, it's not too far away. Ballots go out for the 2022 election, midterm elections on September 24th. So if you think, oh, we'll just have a meeting every month, that's like hardly any, right? It's like 9. It's like not even enough. So that's why we have to get started and do things. And then the last thing I'll say is, Christy, I am totally psyched to hear there's 26,000 Americans here, because I wrote down, here's the new goal for GOTV, and that is, I wrote it, I posted it, and put it up on my monitor. We want to break the registered Americans in Portugal to vote. We want to break the CEF numbers, which is only like 3,000, right? It's only like 3,000 people, because that actually will be very shocking to a number of people who say, oh yeah, there's like 3,000 Americans in Portugal. And if we could get 5,000 people to register to vote, just to register, I think that would be awesome, because it would just really disrupt everyone's thinking about Americans in Portugal. So yay, Yahoo, I like that. That's it. I don't know if there's anything else. We just want to make sure that we integrate with all the other things that Christy has shared. So if you're on GOTV, doesn't mean that you can't help out with some of the other stuff too.
right. And like you can see from those descriptions that all of these things overlap, right? That, if you're on the communications team, you may be helping, Amy's GOTV team crafting some messaging or some graphics or something. If you're on the events team, you might be helping set up registration booths or tables where people can come and register. So all these things really overlap, and they're all in the service of getting out the vote, essentially.
Yeah, and I was going to add, all the GOTV efforts are a huge driver historically for our membership numbers as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like the majority of our growth the last year came from people who went to votefromabroad.org, registered there to get their ballots, and then just clicked on the checkbox to become Democrat Abroad members. So that's another, huge source. So everything feeds, yeah, with each other.
Good point. Okay. Well, and I do have to mention this because Amy was just talking about fundraising. Another way to get involved is to become a donor. And like Amy said, we do have to fund our phone banking, and I believe that is 30 cents a call. Is that right, Amy? Yeah. And so if we have 900 members, we want to call them
at least 30 cents a call, and 30 cents a call means that's only one call. It doesn't mean that's one answered call. It means that's one call. So we have our work cut out for us.
Yeah. So probably the easiest thing to remember there is donations@democratsabroad.pt. You can just send an email and ask Linda, our treasurer, how is best to donate. There's a bank account and IBAN and BIC here, but she can help with that. All right, I'm going to go on.
A quick question. That's a different number than we've had in the past.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a GB number, which is the
You're right.
one
You know,
we
this
had
is from an
before
old,
was
you're right, this is from an
so this
older
is old,
slide.
because the one we had before
Yeah.
was Lithuania.
All right, so I will say the best way to donate is to make that email donations@democratsabroad.pt and or email any of us on the XCOM and we'll help get the actual new number to you. So things to think about if you're thinking about how you want to volunteer, how you want to help out. You just want to consider how much time do you have? Is this something you can donate a certain number of hours per week? Or is it something you can come in, pop in and out and do occasionally? Either of those things is completely fine. We can help find something that works with your availability and with your interests. Something else to think about are what are the most important issues? If you are just a gung-ho, get out the vote, phone banking type person, that is fantastic. If you're someone who is really interested in diving into policy, thinking about, electoral issues that are coming up and you would like to help us find speakers, that's a great thing. Where are you located? You can, no matter where you are, there'll be some way for you to pitch in, either in person or virtually. Good question. Are you introverted or extroverted? Are you the kind of person who really enjoys putting together or attending in-person gatherings? Or are you more of a solo worker who is happy to get a project or a task and work it on your own? What kind of skills do you have? How your existing skills can contribute. So, for myself, I have worked in marketing and communication for a long time. So that was a natural fit for me to help out with. Andres is a super talented tech guy. So he has helped a lot with that kind of thing. But there's a lot of different opportunities, just whatever your interests are and your skills. And then the last question is sort of, what do you want to get out of Democrats Abroad Portugal? We are 100% volunteer led. And whatever we do, our success is really up to our members and how you are willing to contribute to the group. So I'm going to hopefully stop talking for a few minutes. I want to open up this Padlet. Andres, could you put this link into the chat box? And I'm going to switch my screen share to that link. So I see, first I will take Alicia's question. Go ahead, Alicia, you can unmute.
I know we talked about this a while ago, but I don't know if it's physically possible. And this is not something I'm good at. So with those 923 members, do we have like their geographic location and their email addresses?
We do.
And okay, is that hard to access? I mean, I'm not trying to make more work for a limited number of volunteers. Okay, so that's not what I'm not, but getting those for like a geographic area and beginning to be able to connect to the existing members and then really being able to say to them, can you get a member, with the object being, Amy, I just think all these things are so aligned. I mean, we need to build membership, but like you were saying at our committee meeting, every existing member has got to be a voter. We got to make sure all of our members vote just as a get-go. Do you know what I mean? And then we got to get them to get other people. So somehow this building out from it, but starting with the people who already are part of the 923. I imagine they're concentrated in Porto and Lisbon, but by God, there must be a few that are somewhere else other than Porto and Lisbon.
Yes, that we do have them.
Can you share the resources that we have sort of for DAPT?
You mean
In terms of
our,
what Alicia is asking about.
yeah. I was going to explain. We do have a database, and we have access to. There's in fact, something called a turf cut, so we can take a look at a map, and we can define the borders of the map, and then we can see exactly who lives in that area, and then we can create a mailing list. And I did that for our get-togethers in the Algarve, and I don't know if I did it for the Porto one, but and also for the Tumar, I kind of drew a little map, and so I could target email to people in those groups. And if we had something we did before in 2020, when we were still kind of like this loosely, we called it a small but mighty, group of volunteers who were sort of, sharing responsibilities. We have what we called point people for various areas. And so we could do, say, for example, in your area, Alicia, since you brought it up, we could have a couple people be point people. If those people, they would have to sign a confidentiality agreement. We require that of volunteers who are going to have any access to contact information because of GDPR. But we could create a subgroup and have a way for people in that area to reach out to you or whoever a point person was. And so that's a really great way also. But you're right, to build out from those people who are already members. And we have addresses, we have email and phone for most people.
Because I feel like they are our best people to not only find other people, because they know other Americans, what I mean? And then, but most importantly, doing it with the lens of getting new members, but most importantly, making sure everybody's mobilized to vote.
Right. And as of January 1st, we are going to start really campaigning for every American abroad to go ahead and go to votefromabroad.org and request that ballot. And if they do that, and then they click the Join Democrats Abroad box after making that ballot request, that'll help us make sure that we'll remind our members that they need to do that. And then we'll have those people will be able to reach out to ask them to bring other people in. Yes, Amy.
Christy, is that information coming from us, or is that coming from Democrats Abroad Global? And then a piggyback question onto that is, so maybe this is new information for like Alicia and maybe some other people, is that there are people who are in this database, which is called Nation Builder. Yeah, Nation Builder. That's a software if you want to know that. But there's people in there who've signed up, but then they've said, don't send me any emails and don't call me, because they're used to the US version, right, of being bombarded with stuff. So oftentimes we might say that there's, I'm making this up, 50 people in Visio, but 20 of the people say, I don't want you to call me and I don't want you to email me. And then we're like, oh, but you can still get the name. So you can still sort of, I think Andreas is going to tell me if I'm wrong on that. So there's still a way to kind of do a workaround as long as we don't disturb and break GDPR. Christy and the XCOM know more about that than I do, but
yeah, and I can tell you it's probably out of 900 members, about maybe 100 have opted out. So it's we still have of email, and I'm not sure the number on calls. Andres, are you there? Your camera's kind of.
Yeah, my camera. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. No, my camera is. Oh, there we go. There's actually only one person out of 900 that is both do not call and do not email. So there happens to be a membership that is expiring. So it's one of those like, okay, you're gonna expire at the end of the year, and I cannot contact you or call you. Well, that's useful. Anyway, I think the vast majority are. It's sort of like a mix between some people that are do not call and some people that are do not, email, but by far, email has been, really good with us. Like our open rates for a lot of the emails that we send are like around like 50%, which is huge for any kind of, email marketing. So that I think that continues to be sort of the first line of defense. But to Alice's point, we're trying to also look geographically at who has volunteered and try to have almost like a map of volunteers that covers as much of like Portugal as possible. And we have more of an issue with the island, just the Azores, and try to get people there just because the numbers are smaller. But
so this thing that you see on your screen that says, looks like a corkboard, volunteer huddle. At any point, you can go to the link, it's in the chat. And if there's an area that you think you are particularly interested in, you can click the plus, you can write your name. And if there's something you're interested in, I could say like a speaker series or not, or just your name. That's just, feel free to do that at any point just by clicking in the chat. After the fact, it'll add you in there. And I'm going to stop sharing that. After the fact, I'll kind of take a look at that, and I will put it together with the information we already have from surveys and from our discussion and people we've already talked to. What I'd love to be able to do is form some teams in the areas that we talked about, and then kind of reach out and try to schedule some mini kickoff meetings, of small groups of people, and get moving in these different areas. Of course, I will be available, and our executive committee will be available to help with anything. So it's not like we're just going to throw it at you and say, go for it. There's a lot of material and resources that are available already through DA Global that, they have put together, and from our, experiences. But I think right now, I'm just kind of interested to hear people's thoughts on, what you think you might be interested in helping with, or ideas like Alicia, or questions. And, we don't have to, I think we have a small enough group that you could just unmute and share your thoughts or questions if you like.
I have just a question for the people here, because I was never actually involved in politically in the US. Believe it or not, I got very involved when I moved to Portugal. So one of the questions I have for this group is, how can we learn from you guys in terms of how to encourage people to volunteer? Because, and I'll just give an example. I'm not like, depressed or anything, but we had, people raise their hand, and I'm quite well aware of the attrition rate. There's like, 50 people raise their hand, and then half of them show up, and then, 5 of them actually move forward and do stuff. But I'm really curious to see from those of you guys who were engaged on the ground in the United States, how did you really encourage people to volunteer? How did you get roped into volunteering to do things in the US before you came here? What were the sparks? What were the things that inspired you? And what can we learn from that here in Portugal, where I have 2 concerns. One is we have a whole lot of new Americans who've moved here, who may have moved to Portugal and said, la, I don't want to know anything more about politics because I'm sick to death of it. And I escaped that coming to Portugal. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, because we're new as a country committee, So we've got people who have no idea about Democrats abroad, let alone Democrats abroad Portugal. And we have, as thank you, Alicia, for pointing out, we have these 900 people who are truly our best bet to do, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? to get out there and to do that. But if we've got those sort of two things going on, the sort of just maybe concern that I don't want to be involved in politics because I'm escaping that. And the second one is I have no idea this even exists. What thoughts do you have, or what things can you think of, or ideas based on how you got involved in the US? Maybe what worked there and what could we utilize here?
Can I pipe in here?
Jump right in, Carol.
I just want to say that, Amy, you brought up probably my number one concern, interest area, which is the apathy, the people that are here that just don't care and don't want to talk about politics. And I'm going to give an example that we did this thing in Tumar and we had this great turnout, and yet none of my closest American friends here in Tumar had any interest in attending. And it's because they were completely apolitical and disenchanted with both parties. And it's an old song that doesn't seem to have held up that well to me, because I think there are vast differences now. It's not just policy differences anymore. So that's a big question for me that I would be really interested in working on with other people, is how to engage the non-political American here in Portugal. I think that's probably the majority of that. What is it, 26,000, whatever it was, the big number that you had, Chrissy? I think a lot of those people are apolitical, and whether they ever were or never were, they certainly are disinterested now. And so trying to talk to them about registering to vote, about Democrats abroad, any of that is a real interesting challenge. And then volunteerism was something I worked on for decades, not just in the political arena, but in all the nonprofit. And it's always a problem and it's always an issue. And training is the number one thing you can do best once you get someone to attend a meeting, but also creating opportunities for ownership. And that's where what I think it wasn't Phyllis, was it Alicia? I can't see everybody, so I can't remember who was talking about the personal touch, but being able to reach out to people in our area. When we were doing that, Christy, before, where we had those point people, I felt that that was a very productive way of engaging people, because instead of just getting yet another mass email, you were getting a personal touch if you could talk to someone or text them directly. And I think that that's a really, Amy, that's the key to being able to do the retaining a volunteer and engaging the volunteer, is to engage them in a relationship, not just what we want from them, but what we can do for them and of interest to them. So these are very big conversations, and I'd certainly be happy to help with that.
That'd be great.
And that especially the apathy thing, that's a big area of interest for me.
Yeah. Martha, I mean, do you have any thoughts on that with the work that you did with DA in the UK?
Well, one thing that was really helpful there, I mean, there were a huge number of Americans in the UK, and the database was divided into the states that people vote for or from. And so there were so many that it was divided into what were the most important, like, you know, California are ones that are always pretty much standard blue. We didn't worry about contacting in the first wave. And it was the ones to really get them that were, you know, the swing states. And then when whoever the top people felt that was covered, then we would go encourage people from more safer states. So I was wondering if your database is divided when we get the teams going, because that was really an efficient use of time, especially this year or next year when there's not that much time to really pinpoint
Yeah.
key states.
We
So-
do have that information, the voting states, and we did do last December a special outreach for the Georgia election, right, which was so important. So we do have that information, and some of the numbers in Portugal with only 900 people right now, you know, we don't necessarily break it down too small, but you know, we could easily say we can reach 100% of our voters who vote in Georgia or who vote in you know, key states. Amy, did you want to add something?
Yeah, because I mean, one of the things that as we do any kind of general communications, we'll just say social media, and I'll just pick on Facebook because it's the thing I know best. I mean, and that was something that GOTV want to do is to make it, you know, to reach out there and say, so do you vote in Florida? You know, here's the information for you, and here's the kind of thing, and here's what you should do. And I think I recall that I have to double check with Heidi, but there was kind of like a buddy system thing that was being planned. That was, again, so if everyone votes from Florida, and Americans tend to know in Portugal, people who've also moved here from Florida, one of the key things we have in our favor is because Facebook pages like Americans and Friends in Portugal has really pulled people together because they're all, if you're all in Florida, then you're all using the consulate in Miami, for instance. So they're all sharing tips in terms of this works, this doesn't work, and blah, blah, blah. So they do tend to know each other, even if they're not moving to the same place in Portugal. And those are the sorts of things. I think you're absolutely right, Martha, and probably Alicia. It's also comparable to what you were saying, is how do we sort of cross-purpose those? It's not just where you live, but where you vote from, because those are two unique and different ways that you can bring people together to talk with each other and to get over that hump, maybe, Carol.
Create a sort of a community by state, because I mean, one thing I found is moving to Madeira. I moved from England with my husband, my British husband, and that people here, I mean, non-Madeirans, are really open to connecting and making new friends because we're all kind of fish out of water. And I would assume that's the same on mainland, because it's, oh, I'm in a new country and people don't speak English. And, you know, so that just could be a way of, you know, if you start by state, and then that, I think, Alicia, you have a good point of you have like the seeds, and then those will kind of connect to other seeds, and we get that 6 degrees, you know, exponentially high growing. And can I just add one thing to Carol? That I will admit that I was getting close to be one of those people with my head in the sand. Like, I don't live there. It's all insane. You know, Brexit is insane. I'm not living there either. And then I thought, you know, this is like the future of our democracy is at stake here. And if I just say, oh, well, I will never forgive myself if it falls apart, because I had an opportunity to do something. And because I was heading to be that head in the sand person, I will try to draft something as an appeal to people who are sort of sitting on the fence of like, oh, it's over there, they're all bonkers and I don't care anymore. Because I think deep down, if the coup had worked, people would care. Once something's gone, it's hard to get it back. And anyway, so I just wanted to admit that I was close to saying.
I think we all go through cycles where we feel that we have more bandwidth and more capacity of engagement and less. And I think that's just normal and part of the deal. But Phyllis, you wanted to add something.
Just a couple thoughts. I was not politically involved in Seattle. I voted, but I didn't attend. I mean, I think I went to one League of Women Voters event a number of years ago because a good friend of mine is the well, she was the president of the Seattle chapter, and now she's like their everything but the presidency person. It's like a three woman office altogether. But I worked for nonprofits, and we always relied on volunteers for a lot of events. And I could never get my friends to come and volunteer at any functions. And some people just will never volunteer. They don't want to get involved. But what I found in organizing the picnic that didn't happen this summer was that people did want to come together. And I think there are a lot of Americans who know other Americans here. And generally, if we talk politics, it's always, oh my God, thank God, Uncle Joe's in office now. And let's just try to ignore the last 4 years. But my time up?
No, I don't know what that was. Somebody's doorbell, yeah.
That's my
Ooh, straight
doorbell,
by the
and I
buzzer.
have no idea who would be here at this time of night.
But back to the thing about volunteering, what we found was that to volunteer, it has to be something that speaks to people's hearts. And while some people are all for voting, to get involved and help other people figure out how to get their ballots in and fundraise and everything, they're just not going to be interested. But bringing people together as a community, either by state, city, I don't know anybody from Seattle here in Porto area, is a good way to start. And like, we were just going to do a picnic and have a little bit of stuff about Democrats abroad on the side, like, oh, by the way, we've got this information to give you. And I met an American the other week who would be interested, I think, in at least hearing about Democrats abroad, maybe only so that she can remain active to continue to vote actively in California. But she may be interested in, doing, getting involved here in some way. So,
one of the things that I think about the apathy thing, Martha, is that a number of people, not some of you on this call are too young for that, but a lot of people who move here still have grandchildren in the United States.
Right.
And
or adult children.
Or adult children or grandchildren. Do you know what I mean? But that next generation, and it's like, you can't abandon that and let that happen. So it's another sort of arrow in your quiver. Do you know what I mean? Of that messaging.
I think that's really good. Like the empathy of like,
I think
hey,
that's
we
my
might
case
be
as
away.
well.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Frank.
I mean, I've spent many years in Brazil, and so my actual connection with the States has been who are in school but stay there. And I mean, I'm happy to be here and not there, but in a sense, I really feel that I have to take some kind of an active position to try to help them and obviously help the country. But I have a personal stake in the matter because I have 2 kids, and they have to be able to get through the confusion that certainly is going to occur in the near future. So so in a sense, I mean, I vote in California, but I spent a couple of years in California at the beginning of the century, about 20 years ago, and I haven't really spent too much time there. Before that, I was in Boston. Hung around all these very liberal places as a student or as whatever, working. But So I still have, I still have to understand how I feel about the whole process, but in a sense, I want to do something that will make it better for my kids there. That's the thing that really grabs me. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do.
Mhm. Yeah, I think a lot of us identify with that for sure. I know that Andres and I still have our 2 adult children in the States, and I mean, obviously it's really important
Yeah.
to try to contribute in however we can, right? Martha and then Amy.
Yes, I put my hand up.
I see.
Maybe one way of getting people on board is to appeal to their empathy of like, well, yeah, that's nice for you to be living in this beautiful country and not have to worry about the craziness so much. But even if you don't have kids, your friends have kids, and have it, try to connect, because it's very emotional. And just to say, what, you really don't care about the democracy? You breathe from, I'm not being articulate, but anyway, it's just a way of not making people feel guilty, but just these next 2 elections are kind of critical, I feel, in our history.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
Without browbeating people, but somehow to awaken that, well, yeah, maybe I shouldn't just sit on my hands. I don't know.
Okay, Amy, I think you had your hand up.
Yes, I did. So I'm glad you're recording this, Christy, because I have, because those of you who know me, I've been writing down basically the things that you've been saying on Post-its.
I have too. I have like all these Post-its on my
And now I'm
desk.
going to appeal to Nancy, because those of you who don't know Nancy, she's amazing. That she has film background and editing and all kinds of like really good, useful stuff. So my headline is all the things you just said. Is these personal appeals are really valuable. And so I'm combining what you guys just said along with Alicia's 900 some people. So here's my raw wish, is I wish we could get a great deal of these 900 members who've taken the time to register as Democrats abroad and to say why they have, and to get those snippets and to put them into little bits of recorded things that we could put on. I'm not even sure that I would send them. I don't know. So I'm just going to throw this out there. There's one thing to make them public, like on Democrats Abroad, our Facebook page, or in some other ways it sort of gets into weird privacy things unless people have said yes. But there's also lots of things that we could send out. Now we can do such cool things with videos that we can send little video bits in emails and stuff, and to help people say, you know what? Yeah, it feels grim. Okay, we've all said that kind of here. It feels grim. It feels it feels shitty. It feels like how are we gonna do this? But we have to do this. And what were the things, that some of you guys just said? We can't abandon. I want to do something to make it better for the kids here. Frank said, you really don't care. That was some of the things like Martha said, the future of the democracy is at stake. I don't want to have my head in the sand when something's gone. It's really hard to get it back. I don't have kids. I don't have kids in the US, but I'm really concerned about all my friends there who are not moving. They're not moving, they're staying. And I don't want to feel like I'm abandoning them. My friends, my family, and those people. That's why I do this, because I'm actually never planning on going back to the United States. And I'm just weird enough to think it's actually bigger than that, because just to be a little bit gross, if the US democracy fails, there's a whole bunch of other crazy junk that will happen. So, so my wish is, I think it doesn't take much. We may be going into another mini lockdown. So how do we use the if we're not able to all meet with all the Marthas in Madeira and the Alicias in Viseu, and everyone where they're in different places, how can we take that and make that communication, that empathy, that importance, and how can we put that into little video clips so we can share that emotion? It's not negative, and it's not being it is advertising, because I'm an advertising marketing person, but it's done for the right reasons. It's to help communicate those sorts of things to everyone else so that we can pass it along. And the key thing will be how to pass it along, so we're not just talking to the same 900 people. And I haven't thought that through yet, but that would be the next step, is how to use that to help plant the seed further out. So that's just my rant.
No, but that's perfect, because if there could be a little video of Martha that goes out with a email, do you know what I mean, to the people in Madeira that are already members, do you know what I mean? And then, saying, here's why I'm so glad you're a member. I'd love you to be more engaged. I'd love you to spread the word. Here's my reason. Can I talk to you? Can we have a conversation? Because she's probably not going to be, that's a big island. They're not going to be able to get together anyway, And so I don't know. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I think
little
Nancy.
Yeah.
Since it was thrown to me.
Yeah, here you are. And welcome.
No pressure or nothing, Nancy. So before Trump was inaugurated, right before the Electoral College, I was just looking on my Google Drive to try and find it, and I might have actually recently deleted it because I was angry. But before the Electoral College voted, I sent out a plea to a whole bunch of friends and said, I think it was 37. I think we needed 37 electorates to not vote for him. And so I made a little mini video called 37 Reasons. And we listed I don't know, at least 40 reasons or something that somebody could pick. And I got people from all over, all colors, all shapes, all sizes to, it was one of those stupid ones where you just hold up a sign and it says,
oh, that's reason. Cool.
And so we did a 37 Reasons video, and I was like, please let it go viral. And it didn't. I think I had 200 views if I'm lucky. Not 2 million. But and I wish I know I had it on my Google Drive. I'll see if I can find it. I might have trashed it. But we could do something like that. It's really easy. If people just recorded everybody just did it on their iPhones or whatever phone they had. They sent me files onto Dropbox or a Google Drive folder. I had a friend of mine who's a composer gift me that particular piece of music, and I set it to music and just posted it. So we could do something like that. You can either say why you're still involved or whatever theme we come up with, why you should vote from abroad. And we can make a little tiny video. And the sooner, for my schedule, in a way, the sooner the better. But I know this is a hard time of year to get to people. I only say that because on January 10th, I started another job. And right now I'm not, for the first time in ages, I have a break. We could also do.
I feel like we should. I feel like we should move.
Take advantage of this.
That idea. I mean, are there a couple of people on this call who'd be willing? If let's put it this way, if there are a couple of people on this call who are willing to maybe partner with Nancy and myself to help come up with the messaging. And then we can just get cracking on that. You can either tell me now. Terry's waving her hand. Is that a yes? Yes. All right. So we've got
yes.
Okay.
And also, I will, because one of the things I personally I think I'm really compelled by this 26,000 Americans. I'm sorry, I just think that that will blow everyone away. And
That's not how many are in Portugal, is it? Did I miss that? I thought it was 9.
yeah, Christy, tell Nancy
Yeah, so Nancy,
What I missed.
We met with the charge d'affaires from the embassy, the Lisbon embassy. We don't have an ambassador right now because the Republicans are blocking it. But the embassy's unofficial estimate of how many American citizens are in Portugal is 26,000.
Oh my God.
Which is far and above what we know from CEF numbers. So that's really a lot more than we thought.
Well, we could totally set
so my
that to
thought
96,000.
was, I mean, I like your 37 reasons, and I'm just trying to piggyback, and this is a bastardized thing of the idea, but because I would love it if we could create something compelling that has the messaging. You guys, I mean, I'm all about emotional messaging, but basically it's something that we could convince everyone to send. So this is the plonky way to say this idea, but did you know there was 26,000 Americans in Portugal? Can you take this and send this to just by email? Can you forward this to all the Americans that you know in Portugal, and ask them to register to vote, and vote? I don't care about Democrats abroad, because as Andres said, that will come on its own accord if they go to votefromabroad.org.
Right.
And the messaging is, we care, we still care, we're here, but we still care. And I don't care what your reason is, your grandkids, your family, your friends, your gardener. I don't care. And everyone can have their own story about why they still care. And that could be a super cool thing to say, look, I don't care if you send it to 5 people or 50 Americans that you know in Portugal, just send it. And as long as the message is short and sweet, like super couple sentences around the video, and the video is interesting to watch. It doesn't need to be 2 million, Nancy. It only needs to be 26,000.
So question, and maybe I see that there's someone's kind of put a note on the little corkboard. Would it be interesting or possible to have a couple of Portuguese American people do this in Portuguese, someone like Sophia and Sintra, so people can also, we can even do this as a bilingual message too. We could copyright it.
I'm happy to reach out to, I know you guys have heard my story of the Portuguese American gal whose mom voted in Georgia, and she lived here in Portugal, and she'd never voted before at all. And she was so concerned about voting that so I'm sure she would do something. I have a whole bunch of people I'm happy to reach out to. It. If we reach out to 50 people and we have 10 good ones, that's all we need, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be great. Well, I think that we have taken more time out of everybody's evening than we had anticipated. I do want to make sure that we will follow up on this video idea for those who have indicated interest in helping put that together. Martha?
Just one thing on the video, because I was thinking that there are people who may have been Republican voters and they've left for the similar reasons that, of like, I don't care, that's just that there is no Republican Party anymore and all whatever. And that if it's whatever the video is, maybe, or it can be several different ones, that it's not all just like that the Democrats will save the country, but it's more like, do you believe in democracy, and not have all of the message be only to Democrats, because there could be some party switchers.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
and
You know what I mean?
I think to your point, it's really the end goal is vote. We don't care what party. We know statistically, the more people vote, right, the more participation, et cetera, tends to favor Democrats. And if we get people to vote from abroad.org, it's also going to favor our side. But the messaging needs to be like vote, right? You have to have a voice in the future of the country.
Yeah, because it's just making that jump to change countries. I think people are it might be more open-minded than people who just, are hardcore Trumpers.
Yeah, no, and I think a lot of people, if it's too like, oh, this is Democrat abroad, Portugal messaging, are going to immediately like the whatever. And if it's all sort of coached in, we're just trying to get people to vote.
Yes.
Regardless of your party affiliation. It'll carry and it'll get resent and forwarded to other people.
Yes, you said that much better than I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
I totally agreeing with you.
Okay.
Nice
Sorry,
huddle.
this is a good huddle. I think we've got some really good ideas and at least one solid project to get going. And I would ask you, I'm going to put this link again so I see that Nancy put the link to the video that she did in the chat. So I'd encourage you all to click through. I'm going to once again thank you, Andres. You're just one step ahead of me, as always. If you want to go ahead and put your name on this Padlet in whatever column you're kind of leaning to contributing in, that will help me. And we will follow up and kind of connect people in terms of the areas of interest. I am always happy to hear new ideas, be introduced to new people that you think we should know about. Anything like that, please feel free at any time to reach out to me directly. And I'm going to put my email address in the chat if I can type. That is my email address. Amy is our Get Out the Vote chair. I'm going to put her email address in the chat also. But feel free anytime to reach out, and we will take this and we will run with it, and we will start talking about programs. We will start talking about GOTV. I love this video idea, Nancy. Thank you for popping in. It's fantastic. I love, even though we are all, scattered all around the country, I love that we can come together and share ideas. And I feel really excited for the upcoming months. And I know that we are going to exceed our successes that we had in the past elections. And always feel free to reach out. So thank you all very much.
This was great. Thank you for organizing.
Yeah, thank you. And we will follow up. You'll be hearing from us. Thanks so much.
Thank you for your leadership.
Bye.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Christy. Bye-bye,
Bye-bye,
everyone.
Christy.
Bye.
Thank you.
See y'all.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Frank.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Terry.
Bye. Thanks, Christy.
Bye, Terry. Thanks.